Hey there, nation. Welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of Cheap Shots. This is our series of videos that are dedicated to showing you, the hobbyist, how you can save some money on some of your hobbies. And today, what we're talking about today is Basecoat Sprays, is what we're basically talking about. Now, in case you're not sure what Basecoat Sprays are, the idea is that when you paint your miniatures, I'm not talking about primers. What you're supposed to do is, like, the idea behind base spraying is that, yes, you have primers on your miniatures, but in order to help you save time on your miniatures, what you do is you use different color spray paint. And the idea is that you use this spray paint to spray paint the majority of your miniatures to kind of save you time on base coating your miniatures. And then from there, you layer on different types of paints and different colors of paints to finish off your product. And the reason why I'm bringing this video up is because a lot of new time players, especially people who are really brand new to the hobby, sometimes they get a little lost on some ways that they can use to base spray their miniatures and to get those initial coats of paint on and then build it from there because they're trying to paint quickly. And the reason why I bring that up is because of some of the things that are happening up here. For example, when it talks about spray paint. So as you can see here, I'm at the Games Workshop website. Now we're delivering to the United States to show you the products. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about base sprays. As you can see here, we have Chaos Black Spray, Retributor Armor Spray, which is a golden color. We have a yellow spray for Avalanche Sunset Spray, Mephiston Red, Mechanicus Standard Gray, Xandri Dust, Caliban Green, all kinds of different colors. And as you can see on this page, some of these base sprays are kind of expensive. As you can see here, Chaos Black Spray, which is kind of basically a black primer, costs about $17. Retributor Armor Spray costs $28, and it looks like a majority of the different colors here. Let's take a look here. Let's go to the second page. Yeah, looks like the rest of the different colors they offer up to $19.50, and while as like the base colors like black and white are around $17. So now many of you might be thinking that's actually a pretty good price, but when you're actually looking at, you know, the cost of what you're actually getting and what you're getting it for, it can run kind of expensive, especially if you're using a bunch of different cans to paint things. For example, if you're playing like Ultramarines for 140K, this would be the kind of spray paint you would be expected to use, which is Colmar Crack Blue. Ultramarines are bright blue, so you'd spray paint them and then you paint from there. If you're playing Death Guard or any kind of Nurgle units, you would spray them in Death Guard Green, Dark Angels, Caliban Green, Black Legion, Chaos Black Spray, Blood Angels, Mephiston Red. If you're playing like Stormcast Eternals, especially if you're going with the golden color scheme, you'd use Retributor Armor. So you can see, if you were to buy these cans, you could actually rack up quite a bit of money. In fact, you probably need like at least 2 cans of this stuff, for example, in order to make up an army, which to do about a 2,000 point Age of Sigmar army, and that running you about $56. That's just on spray paints. Now, there are other companies that do offer space sprays besides Games Workshop. Another company that's also really good at that is Army Painter. So here we are at the Army Painter website. And as you can see here, we're also in the United States, so that we can show some of the possible colors. So as you can see, we have like, you know, black undercoats for $10.99. So these are a little bit cheaper than their Games Workshop equivalents, $10.99 throughout. So you can see here we have leather brown spray, that's $14.99, which is better than $19.50. Same thing with Army Green, which is kind of similar to Death Guard Green, which runs about $14.99. Same thing with Pure Red, is similar to Mephiston Red for $14.99. And so, like I said, this is a little bit cheaper than the Games Workshop stuff. But the actual thing is, if you're just starting out painting and you want to use the base spray method in order to paint up your miniatures, to paint them up very, very quickly, using these kind of base sprays from these companies, it can run kind of expensive, and there is a really, really cheap option, and we're going to talk about what some of those cheap options are today. So we're going to talk about that in our video today. Alright, which brings us to our next portion of our video now, and we're bringing it back to the paint table. As you can see here, what I have is some very budget-friendly options that you could use to kind of base paint your models using sprays. As you can see, I got some miniatures here, just kind of showing you with their corresponding colors what I use to kind of help it out. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, right? For those of you guys who are brand new to this, whatever the advertisements might say about base painting your miniatures with sprays, I mean, unless you're using an airbrush, that you're actually using actual controlled amounts of paint inside your airbrush, you're not going to get 100% coverage on your miniature, okay? For example, this Death Guard one, for example, they've got so many nooks and crannies and small little detailed areas in it. Unless you're using an airbrush to do that, to get into those areas, you're not going to get the same amount of detail work out of a can of spray paint like you normally would. would. All right, so because of that, you need to actually not just use the spray, you also need to use like just regular paints in order to paint the nooks and crannies that the spray will miss, because the amount of paint that you will need to spray onto this miniature with that spray, it would actually just wipe out all the detail altogether for you to do that. All right, and so you still need to have basically to add paint. So for example, if you were to paint this Death Guard miniature, for example, and you bought the Games Workshop Death Guard green, which costs what, $19.50, and then you're paying another $6 for a little small little tub of little Death Guard green to kind of paint with the nook and crannies, you're talking about an investment around $25, $26, maybe $27 depending on where you're living at. All right. Whereas with these different sprays, they pretty much do exactly the same thing, and you can also match up really cheap paints to paint them with and still do a pretty good budget on that one. For example, as you can see here, I have 2 cans of Krylon Color Master. This is a satin finish. This one is satin sea glass. I used this to base spray almost all of my Celestial Vindicator armies, and as you can see, the color came out really, really good on that part. And then I used Apple Barrel's Laguna paints in order to help that out. Also, same here, if you look at here with this Krylon Color Master, dark blue spray, because I have some Stormcast Trolls that I want to use to make it a little bit darker. I use satin Oxford blue, and I use True Navy from Apple Barrel paint to match it, because the nice part about these budget paints, these craft paints, is that a lot of them, because there's so many variety of colors, you can pretty much find either the exact matching color or a color that is so close that you can't tell the difference anyways. Now you'll notice this guy's a little bit more chalky looking. The reason why is because I actually dry brushed this miniature with some True Navy colors with some blue from the Apple Barrel paints. Let me see if I can find that color real quick. Here we go. So because I'm starting on these guys next in my army, the Palador Hunters, so I've based them in this whole Oxford blue, did a lot of coverage, quickly covered the entire miniature. Then I used the True Navy paint in order to get the areas that I missed, and then I dry brushed them real quick with some Apple Barrel Sky Blue. As you can see, I got like a really nice undercoat for him to use, and I dry brushed the highlights, and now I'm going to paint the rest of the miniature up, and then of course put an oil wash on it for the quick paint method. Same thing with this guy here. All right, this is a Plague Marine from the Death Guards, right? I didn't spend $20 on Death Guard green. I just went to Walmart real quick and bought Rust-Oleum Camouflage Spray Paint. It's a nice flat spray paint, non-reflective, ultra flat color. This one's called Army Green is the name of the color. It looks exactly like Death Guard green. Sprayed that miniature up with that, and whatever holes I had, I used Palm Leaf by Apple Barrel Paint. Same thing with that in order to do this miniature. Now, if we were to buy the Games Workshop equivalencies of these, like I already mentioned before, you're talking about $20 for the can of spray paint, maybe $6 for the little tub of paint to go with it. You're looking around $26 for that, okay? If we were to use the same equivalency with Army Painter, let's say you bought the $10.99, so let's run up to $11 can of Army Painter spray with their paint, which is about around $6. You're looking at what, $17, right? Okay, so with these Krylons, I bought these at Walmart, right? This one was like $4 for that can of spray paint. And this huge tub of the Laguna paint that I got for Apple Barrel, that cost me 50 cents. So we're looking at what, $4.50? $4.50 as opposed to like $30, as opposed to $27. So you're starting to see how the savings really add up, right? Yeah, exactly. Same thing with this one, 50 cents, exactly the same thing. This one was actually cheaper. The Rust-Oleum Army Green paint only cost $3. It was like $2.98 a can. So $3 of that, so $3.50, and I have enough of this can of paint here to paint up my entire Death Guard army. Same thing with any Demons of Khorne, and then I have like this tub of 50-cent paint that I could use to make up cover it up. Then I just dry brush, paint the details, base coat those details, and dry brush them with different colors as well, and then oil wash them, and they have a really good tabletop finish for you to play in your miniatures. So that's just another way that you could do that. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg for base coating your miniatures with sprays, especially since you're not going to be getting very good coverage anyways. I mean, you'll do a decent job, right? For example, let me grab one of my other miniatures here real quick. So like this one, for example, this is a Palador Aquila Palador. So you can see here, I just sprayed them a little bit, but if you were to really look inside of the areas, like right beneath the cloak, you can still see some gray there. Like that. And I use a different shade of blue for this one. I didn't use the turquoise color that I have here. I have another one, I forgot the name of the color, but this is lighter blue. So for example, that one has some holes in it, right? But that's okay though, because I have this 50-cent can of bottle of paint here. Actually, not this one. Let me see if I can find the actual one I would use. Here we go. Here it is. So I have this 50-cent, this one cost me like 79 cents at Hobby Lobby for this Delta color. So there's enough of this cheap craft paint where you can find a matching color and blend it in to kind of fix it. All right, so that's an example of how you can save some money. So if you're considering about base painting in miniatures with sprays, it's a great quick method of doing it. Just don't have to go about breaking the bank in order to make that happen. You could just, you know, do some shopping around, doing some research on your own, and then just kind of doing it from there. You can save yourself a lot of money, buy yourself a variety of paints that you could use to base coat your miniatures, and then paint your armies very, very quickly. So that's just a little cost-saving tip for you guys here, for my fellow cheapskates out there. So, some thoughts to remember. Now, if you want to use your money to buy, you know, the Games Workshop stuff or the Iron Paint or something, you know, more power to you. You know, there's no real right or wrong way to do it. It's just that if you're kind of price conscious and you're a baller on a budget like I am, then that's a really cheap way for you to do it. All right, you guys, let's go do it for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also, check us out on Instagram, Google+, Facebook, as well as blogger.com for all the latest and greatest about what we're doing for a hobby. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, you guys.